Now, for more on the ballots, let's bring in election law expert and criminal defense attorney Brian Silber and esteemed attorney and professor emeritus at Harvard Law, Alan Dershowitz. And he is the author of Guilt by Accusation. He's the author of the Wall Street Journal bestseller, Guilt by Accusation, I should say. So, Alan, we just heard they're going to sue the Trump administration, campaign, I guess I should say, is going to sue Michigan. What do they hope to get out of that? Ultimately, can they ask for another vote, or what are they trying to accomplish?
Well, I think they're going to sue anywhere they can. I'm sure that is the instruction they've gotten from the president. If there is a plausible lawsuit, file it. Who knows? The judiciary may rule in our favor. It's a no-lose scenario from their point of view. It's a scorched earth policy. No, there won't be a new vote. There won't be a new election. But, you could count on perhaps some votes being discounted and other votes that have been discounted being counted. Unlikely it will change the outcome of elections. Very rare does a lawsuit change the outcome of election. Of course, we all remember Bush versus Gore. That may very well have changed the outcome of an election in Florida and thus in the United States. So I suspect we'll see lawsuits like this cropping up in each of the contested states, particularly, of course, in Pennsylvania, where already they have 4 justices who appear to be on their side as to whether or not you can change the date as to when ballots are counted if they are filed on time. So we'll see more litigation.
Yeah, and Brian, you want to talk about that a little bit? Because it seems like the state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania gave them an extra 3 days, but that didn't come from the legislature.
I take tremendous issue with this. And, Professor Dershowitz, I think you would agree with me, finality is a major, major part of the law. We have to have an end to things. We got to have a time when things end. And that's a principle in fairness. So the idea that they should extend on their own, like they're the legislature, 3 days. Why 3 days? How about 4? How about 5? You know what? Let's come back in 6 months. I think there should be an end. It's written in the law, and I question the opinion, although obviously they're our Supreme Court in that state, and I would defer to their judgment.
Alan, do you want to respond?
Both sides of that. One argument is that the Constitution itself in Article 2 says it's up to the legislature and you don't defer to the judiciary. Other arguments say, no, the legislature created the judiciary, and so essentially they delegated the decision to the judiciary. It's going to be, nobody can predict what the outcome of that litigation will be.
All right. Brian, out of the lawsuits that the administration will likely file, what is the outcome, you think?
Wow. If I knew that, I wouldn't have to practice law anymore. It's really anybody's game because the devil lies in the details. So, for example, let's say they're challenging recount and they're looking at these overvotes and these undervotes. It's a question of interpretation of who the voter selects. Let's say you've got a dot in Joe Biden's bubble, but you've got a completely filled out oval in President Trump's oval. Which one is it? It's going to come down to a judgment call, and they'll be able to challenge that judgment. They could say that's an abuse. They went the wrong way. And you know what? If you do enough of them, it might flip a vote.
But, Brian, it seems like a vote here or there. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a process where there are bigger numbers in that, aren't we?
No, because when you're doing a recount, those are margin elections. And this is a margin election. And all those little points matter. And I'll tell you something. The outcome may not really be the determining factor. Just filing the suit and calling out people for their mistakes has the tremendous effect of a lot of times getting people in line, especially elected supervisors elections. Have flagrant major problems. And I think even if you don't win the lawsuit necessarily, just putting the pressure on knowing that every error, every mistake, every detail, every little thing is going to be accounted for, it changes the way people act. And that's beneficial to a campaign.
But I think that's demanding too much of an election. We don't expect perfection in election. Every election has imperfections. There's overvoting, there's undervoting, there's mistakes, there's fraud, there's voter suppression.
Yeah.
We've never had a perfect election in this country, and to demand that everything be perfect is to basically say, let's go back to 1800, where only 65,000 people voted in our presidential election. Today we have, 300 million or
Yeah, 100. I think it's going to be like 160 million, whatever it is. Yeah, point well taken. Alan Dershowitz, Brian Silber, thank you so much for joining us. And we are awaiting the president's campaign. They're going to have a press conference at 3:30. We're going to find out what that's all about. There's a lot going on right now. Stay with us on American Agenda.